In my previous videos exploring the cyberpunk genre, I've made the statement that this is the space where the big questions are asked but never answered. What does it mean to be alive? What does it mean to be human? What is the nature of the soul? Well, as I watched Ghost in the Shell, I saw these exact same questions being raised. The difference between this film and others in its genre, however, is that this time I actually felt like I got something approaching an answer. At the very least, an answer as far as the director Mamoru Oshii saw it. Ghost in the Shell is a 1995 animated film adapted from the 1989 manga of the same name. It follows the exploits of Major Motoko Kusanagi and her team at Japan's highly secretive Section 9 as they try to catch a cyber terrorist known only as the Puppet Master. If I'm being honest, as much as I love this film, it's fairly standard cyberpunk fare in this day and age. And yes, I know that this movie had a massive hand in making it standard fare. Advanced technology, corporate and government interests, sprawling urban arcologies that defy imagination. It's all here for you to wrap yourself up in like a warm blanket. Where Ghost in the Shell makes its mark, even today, is in its mouth-watering presentation and the wonderful way it communicates ideas and concepts through its animation and characters. The first thing I'd like to touch on is the subs v dubs debate, at least as it pertains to this film. By and large, I couldn't care less about whether or not the dub translation is accurate. As long as it gets the point across, I'm generally good. That being said, with this movie, I really do feel like you need the subtitles and original Japanese audio. Don't get me wrong, the English voice cast does a great job with what they're given. But when you compare the English version to what's actually being said in the subtitles, there's layers of nuance that just feel like they're missing. Add to that the fact that the Japanese voice acting just feels, I think cleaner would be the most appropriate word, and you should really do yourself a favor and just watch it with the subtitles. This leads me neatly into my next point, which is that there were several moments in this film where I felt like there was some cultural divide that I didn't understand. Take this sequence, for example. This is a couple minutes worth of location shots, smack dab in the middle of the movie, and it just slaughters the story's pacing. I don't know if there's something I'm missing here, or if it's just the animator showing off, but it felt like there was some point they were trying to make that I just wasn't getting. Let me know down in the comments if you've got any insights on this, or if I'm just reading too much into it. One of the things this film does better than almost any other in its genre is establishing a sense of place. In scenes such as this, we can see the detritus of the old world casually discarded in favor of the shiny and new. For this whole sequence, from the garbage men to the showdown in the canal, all I could think about was the walled city of Kowloon, and how little value this world placed on human life. Millions of people packed into 2-meter by 2-meter boxes, unseen and unknown. Cogs in a machine that will never know they existed. Another interesting point this movie raises is how all of this science and technology really hasn't changed the average person's life in the day-to-day. Yes, the Major and her cohort are almost all borged out of their minds with cybernetic implants, but the garbage men still collect the garbage, shoppers still buy their groceries in a market, and people still get pissed off when you cut them off in traffic. In fact, if it weren't for all this slick tech on display, you could be forgiven for thinking this was just an average day in the modern era. As I said earlier, Ghost in the Shell asks the deep philosophical questions that the genre is known for, and actually provides something approaching an answer. What do I mean by that? Well, let's take a look at Major Kusanagi and her portrayal in this film. The first thing I'd like to touch on is the concept of cyberpsychosis. Now, I am aware that this was popularized by Mike Pondsmith in his tabletop RPG Cyberpunk. That's big C, mind you. But I believe its origin can be found here in Ghost in the Shell. The rationale behind cyberpsychosis is that the more cybernetic augmentations a person makes to their body, the less in touch they become with their humanity. The end result of which is a complete mental break, often resulting in the deaths of dozens of innocent bystanders. Now, while we might not have anything so bombastic in this film, we can certainly see the effects of massive cybernetic augmentation in how the Major acts and feels.
Well, I guess cyborgs like myself have a tendency to be paranoid about our origins. Sometimes I suspect I'm not who I think I am. Like maybe I died a long time ago and somebody took my brain and stuck it in this body. Maybe there never was a real me in the first place, and I'm completely synthetic like that thing.
The Major states outright that she worries that she isn't who she thinks she is, if maybe her entire personality has been constructed exactly the same as her body. This type of question is not something that a normal human would have to deal with, at least not without being at the bottom of a very deep psychological and metaphysical rabbit hole. This alone is enough to cause someone to question the very nature of their humanity, and that's without having their entire body being made of metal. Next, we've got this moment where she's changing out of her wetsuit after a dive. Now, this can be interpreted as simple comfortability with her teammate, but given what we know about the Major and her state of mind, I believe that this moment speaks to a darker subconscious feeling. That being, this is not her body, so what does she care if someone sees it naked? This theme is also explored in Altered Carbon, both in the book series by Richard Morgan and the Netflix series of the same name. Definitely go watch the first season if you haven't already. It is peak television. Anyway, the idea is that by living in a body that is not your own, a dissociation occurs that changes you on a fundamental level. First, it's a profound lack of care towards the meat suit you're wearing, and then towards humanity at large. After all, aren't we all just walking meat suits driven by small electrical impulses? To me, it seems that the Major is experiencing the opening salvo of cyberpsychosis and personality fragmentation, and the only way she knows how to handle it is by withdrawing into herself. The final point I'd like to touch on is the concept of life itself. No small thing, right? Especially when we've only got a couple minutes to talk about it. Ghost in the Shell's main antagonist is an AI known as the Puppet Master. Originally designed as an intrusion program, it wandered the dark waters of cyberspace and eventually became sentient through its assimilation of new ideas and new code. Now, the majority of the characters in this film instantly claim that such a being cannot be alive, but the movie itself raises the question, why can't it be? After all, didn't humanity evolve through the collection of disparate protein chains in the soup of the primordial oceans, responding to external stimuli? What is the Puppet Master if not the same thing evolving in the soup of cyberspace? Who's to say that its lived experience is worth any more or less than someone like you or I? After all, if God created life from nothing, what is a program if not the exact same thing? The touch of God in this case being the stroke of a programmer's keyboard. It's just something to keep in mind the next time you want to talk to ChatGPT, Gemini, or Grok. If you really want your mind blown, consider the possibility that while humanity is creating these AI in the nothing that is cyberspace, what makes you think we aren't programs in someone else's simulation? The gaps between stars nothing more than circuits to be crossed, and humanity nothing more than nodes of information. Ghost in the Shell has stood the test of time for a reason. It is stunningly beautiful, wonderfully read by both its Japanese and English cast, and so philosophically dense that it can be viewed on any one of a half dozen levels. This is not to say that it's not without its faults, just like any movie. Its plot and dialogue can be a little obtuse at times. I couldn't shake the suspicion that as an American viewer, I'm missing some of the subtext due to a cultural divide. And the pacing is a little all over the place. But on the whole, I heartily recommend this movie, even if you only watch it once. You will not be disappointed that you did. Anyway, that's all I've got for you this time, so if you could do me a favor and hit the like and subscribe buttons, I'd really appreciate it. Every little bit really helps me out. Also, go ahead and take a look at the other videos on my channel, or hit up my website to see my blog and maybe check out my books on Amazon. Thanks very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.